Warmth is not a sin. But when it connects to the wrong group, care can easily turn into accomplice-like devotion. When people think of youths in a juvenile reformatory, they usually imagine rough, aggressive youths who only think of themselves. But in reality, there are also many youths with a very different texture. Inside the group, these youths may not have the most threatening faces. They may have the gentlest faces. When someone is sick, they care for them. When someone is struggling, they respond first. When someone is hungry, they try to share what they have. The helper group is made up of these youths. Their delinquency is more likely to come not from coldness, but from distorted warmth. The core of the helper group is high NP, relationship maintaining energy, distorted devotion that protects the wrong group, and a structure whose direction must turn towards self-nurturing. When we look at the graph of the helper group, the axis that first catches the eye is NP. It is 36.2 points, clearly higher than the overall average of 33.9. This score means these youths are closer to caring for relationships than ignoring them. They are closer to holding on than cutting off. They are closer to embracing than coldly sorting things out. On the other hand, CP is 30.9 points, lower than the overall average. AC is also 30.7 points, lower than average. In other words, the force to say this is not okay and draw a line may be somewhat weak. The force to establish their own separate position inside the group may also be weak. A is 31.4 points and has not collapsed. These are not youths without thinking ability, but their judgment may be pulled more by warmth inside the relationship than by standards outside the relationship. Finally, SC is 33.2 points. It is higher than the overall average of 29.5. This point is important. These youths also have a strong force that does not give up on relationships and wants to reconnect what has been broken. This structure can be summarized in one sentence. It is a structure where the force to protect others is large, but personal standards and personal boundaries are relatively weak. These youths are closer to watching over people inside the scene than creating the scene like the leader group. If someone is hungry, they may share what they have. If someone is hurt, they may step forward first. If a problem occurs, they may take the blame. If someone collapses, they may try to hold them again. Among peers, they may have looked like this: a warm-hearted youth, a loyal youth, the youth who steps forward first when someone is struggling. From the outside, they may look less like dangerous youths and more like good kids caught among the wrong kids. But if we stop there, we miss the structure. The core is not simply a good kid got swept along. What matters more is that the force to protect relationships itself is large. Even when that relationship is wrong, they may not easily cut it off. So with a gentle face, these youths may become the emotional adhesive of the wrong group. Functional analysis is not just looking at scores. It is reading how each ego state connects or collides within actual behavior and relationships. The helper group must also be read through that structure. The scene that best shows the helper group may not be a dramatic delinquency scene. It may be this sentence: our kids shouldn't go hungry. This may not be a simple excuse. The youths in this group may genuinely have a heart that cares for someone inside their group first. If a friend is hungry, they want to feed them no matter what. If someone is hurt, they step in for them. If a problem occurs, they take the blame. If someone collapses, they hold them again. In this way, they may try to protect the relationship. The problem is that the relationship is not healthy. Inside the wrong group, this warmth may not become a force that saves one another. It may become loyalty that sinks together. So the delinquency of this group is closer to relationship maintaining delinquency than leading or dominating delinquency. At this point, NP is very important. NP is originally the force of warm care and acceptance. It is energy that cares for, embraces, and protects people. But this force can also become distorted depending on the situation. When the ability to care for others is separated from fact-checking and boundary setting, goodwill can flow in a direction that further damages the other person or exhausts the self. Scenes where there was care but no recognition and warmth but no boundary touch this structure. The danger of the helper group is different from that of the leader group. These youths are not dangerous because they have strong malice. Rather, they are dangerous because they cannot refuse, cannot cut off wrong relationships, and return even after being hurt. In particular, we must not miss the fact that SC is higher than average. This energy can originally become the force to try again, reconnect what has been broken, and not give up on relationships. But when this force is connected to the wrong relationship, the youth returns even after being hurt. Even after being betrayed, they think there must have been a reason. Even after suffering loss, they attach again. In other words, their persistent connecting energy becomes resilience when used well. But when used wrongly, it becomes the force that strengthens the prison of relationship by their own hands. The problem of these youths is not simple weakness. It is that the force to reconnect is too strong at the point where they should cut off. So the core of the helper group is this: a structure that tries to protect someone even by erasing the self. That very structure may hold these youths inside delinquency for a long time. When reading the helper group, we must not look only at high NP. We need to look together at the lowered CP and AC. Low CP does not mean they do not know laws and rules. Rather, it means that in front of relationships, the standard that says this is not okay may be pushed backward. When the heart that cares for people stands forward, even wrong requests may be hard to cut off. Just this once. This kid is struggling too much. If I don't help, something terrible may happen. In this way, relationships can easily defeat standards. The fact that AC is low is also important. Usually, AC is used to check safety, read the surrounding climate, stop, adjust, and regulate one's own behavior. But in the helper group, this energy may operate not as healthy social regulation, but as being buried inside the climate of the group they already belong to. In other words, rather than reading the norms of society as a whole, they may first read the group in front of them and adjust to that group. So it is more accurate to read this structure not as they care too much about what others think, but as they easily lose personal standards inside the wrong climate. What the helper group needs first is boundaries and self-care. First, CP must be built. They need a standard that can say no, even in front of relationships. This is not about memorizing the language of law and rules. It is about awakening the sense that they must draw lines in order to protect their own life as well. Second, ACM must be recovered. These youth may lean toward being absorbed into the group. So they need training to establish their own position by saying, I think differently, I will step out here, and I will not follow this atmosphere. Third, NP must be rewired. The force that cares for others is not the problem itself. The problem is that this care has flowed only in a direction that erases the self. So this youth must learn the sense that caring for oneself matters as much as caring for others. Fourth, the direction of SC must be changed. The force that holds on to relationships should not keep being used for the wrong group. It must turn toward self-recovery and the youth's own future. What is needed here is self-nurturing. It means gradually turning the energy that embraces others toward oneself as well. It is important to bring the accepting energy of NP inward. Soothe the places that are intimidated or shaken and retag the meaning of SC, not as clinging to relationships, but as the force that rebuilds me. So the first priority in adjusting this group is not to remove warmth. It is to change the direction so that warmth does not lead to self-erasure. The expression mother-like youth often fits the helper group. These are youths who care for someone inside the group, feed them, protect them, take hits for them, and take blame for them. But that very youth may care for their own life last. So the change this group needs is not for a good kid to become a bad kid. It is for a youth who only cared for others to become someone who can also care for themselves. Warmth must remain, but that warmth must also be able to flow first in the direction of protecting the self. Only when I do not collapse can I help someone. If I burn down the entire candle of my life, when I am trapped in darkness, there will be no light left to shine for me. The adjustment of the helper group ultimately goes here. It is not cutting off the force that holds relationships. It is reconnecting that force toward healthy relationships and self-protection. Only then does the warmth of these youths become not fuel for delinquency, but a resource for recovery. To the helper group, simply saying, cut off your affection, be cold, or abandon your friends is not very helpful. This is because the warmth of these youths is one of the most precious assets inside them. So there are several things to be careful about. First, do not make warmth itself the problem. If that happens, the youth may feel their own strength as if it were a sin. Second, do not romanticize loyalty either. If holding on to a relationship until the end is always interpreted as beautiful, the youth may keep repeating self-destructive devotion. Third, help them distinguish empathy from self-sacrifice. They need to learn that understanding someone and carrying that person's guilt instead are two different things. Fourth, reframe cutting off a relationship not as betrayal, but as self-protection. Only then can this youth develop the sense that protecting the self is not coldness, but health. The egogram of the helper group shows that delinquency does not always come only from coldness and aggression. These youths care for others, cannot let go of relationships, try to protect the group, and may reach out again even after being hurt. So their problem is closer to devotion poured into the wrong object than malice. The most important question when reading this group is this: before asking, why can this youth not refuse? We need to ask, why has this youth's warmth not been able to turn toward the self? When that question appears, the egogram of the helper group begins to look not like evidence of weakness, but like a map of warm energy whose direction must be reset.